Welcome to The Explainer. What does it actually look like when a society completely falls apart from the inside out? Today, we're going to look at the anatomy of a collapse, as laid out in an ancient and eerily specific prophecy.
So, what happens when you pull out all the supports holding a society together? We're going to explore that exact question by doing a detailed verse-by-verse dive into a prophecy from the book of Isaiah, chapter 3. Let's get right into it. Okay, so Isaiah kicks things off with a prediction that is just stark. It takes aim at the most basic, essential things a society needs to even exist, starting with Jerusalem and Judah.
Verse 1 gets straight to the point, no messing around. The very first things to be taken away are the absolute fundamentals for survival. It paints this incredibly bleak picture of a society right on the edge of starvation and thirst.
Now, these words, stay and staff, are really key. They basically mean any kind of support, anything you lean on. And the verse immediately tells us what that means in this case: bread and water. This isn't just poetry, it's a direct prophecy of a coming famine. And this isn't just a metaphor either. This is pointing to a very real, very brutal historical event: the siege of Jerusalem by the Babylonians, where the city was literally starved into submission. You know, Isaiah wasn't the only one seeing this coming. The prophet Ezekiel, in chapter 4, verse 16, gives an account that is chillingly similar. So you see, this isn't just one person's vision, it's this consistent, terrifying warning of what's on the horizon. But the collapse goes way deeper than just a lack of supplies. The prophecy in verses 2 and 3 describes what you could call a brain drain on an epic scale. It's not just food and water being removed, it's the human pillars of the entire nation. The mighty man, the warrior, the judge, the prophet, the wise elder, the military captain, the honorable man, the counselor, even the skilled speaker, they're all gone. So, with all the wise and experienced people gone, you've got this massive power vacuum. And what rushes in to fill that void? Well, it's a perfect recipe for disaster. Verse 4 is just blunt and honestly terrifying. It says, "And I will give children to be their princes, and babes shall rule over them." Just try to imagine a nation in a deep crisis being led by the people who are the absolute least equipped to handle it. And this wasn't just a logistical nightmare. In the ancient world, this was seen as a genuine curse. You see it reflected elsewhere, like in Ecclesiastes 10:16, which says, "Woe to thee, O land, when thy king is a child." And if you think this is all just hypothetical, think again. This timeline shows how this prophecy actually played out. In the decades leading up to its final collapse, Judah was ruled by a whole series of young, often unprepared kings. The prophecy turned out to be eerily accurate. So what happens when you have no food, no water, and no competent leaders? Well, according to verses 5 through 7, the very fabric of society just dissolves. Verse 5 describes this total inversion of the social order. It says the people will be oppressed, everyone by another. The child acts arrogantly toward the elder, the dishonorable toward the honorable. It's a complete dog-eat-dog world where every standard of respect has just vanished. This slide really captures that chaos perfectly. On one side, you have the old order, the ideal of a functioning society. And on the other, you have the new reality of the collapse, a world completely turned on its head. The desperation in verses 6 and 7 is just palpable. I mean, the qualifications for leadership have sunk so low that literally just owning a decent coat is enough for someone to say, "Hey, you should be our ruler." But even that guy refuses, saying, "I can't fix this. I don't even have food or clothing in my own house. Don't make me a ruler." And that's the real takeaway here. The situation is so far gone, it's beyond repair. Leadership is no longer a privilege, it's a curse, a death sentence. The nation is so broken that no one wants the impossible job of trying to be its healer. So after painting this vivid picture of chaos and total collapse, the prophecy finally gets to the root cause. Verse 8 gives us the why behind this whole catastrophe. And the answer couldn't be clearer. Verse 8 just lays it right out there. "For Jerusalem is ruined and Judah is fallen, because their tongue and their doings are against the Lord." In other words, the collapse was completely self-inflicted. And this was a rebellion on two fronts. It wasn't just their actions, their doings. It was also their tongue, their words, their worship, their whole culture. Their entire way of life was in open defiance of the very foundation they were built on.
And this, right here, is where this ancient text suddenly feels incredibly modern. It forces us to ask a really tough, timeless question. If a society's words and actions are what ultimately determine its stability, what does that imply about our own? That's a sobering thought to end with.